Hi, this is Tom with EZRV Products, and in this video we're going to talk about how to program your parameters and set your system up initially for the T515 system. And the setup for the T515 and the 508 are the same. So what you're going to need is your monitor. You're going to need the back of your manual or the sheet that has a layout of your rig. You're going to need your sensors, your numbering kit, your wrenches, and if you're going to use any anti-seize compound, you might want to have that handy. So what we do, initially what I do is I take the numbering kit and I'm going to take the sensors and I'm going to number each sensor. And it doesn't matter which number you use, that's going to be up to you. And you just peel the sensor off of the number off of here, you put it on the back of the sensor. And I recommend using a little bit of clear nail polish and putting it over the number in case it's in inclement weather. That'll kind of put a lacquer finish on it for you. Once you've numbered them, I lay them out. And here I've got three types of sensors. I've got the T515 sensor, which is, I know it's a little smaller sensor and it has EezTire on the back. I've got a T508 sensor, which has 3 screws that hold on the anti-theft housing. And I have a flow-through sensor. And the flow-through sensor and the T508 sensor you can program either on the tire or off the tire. The T515 sensor requires air activation, so this programs as you screw it onto the tire. So the first thing, after I number all of my sensors, I write down the corresponding number on the tire that I'm going to put them on, whether it's on my rig or the trailer or tow. And the reason I want to do that is in case I ever have tire work done later on, if they don't take the sensors off and put them back on the right tire, I don't have to reprogram the whole system. I'll know what sensor number went onto what tire, and I can just move the sensors around. The next thing I'm going to do is on this side, I'm going to write down what my axle pressure is at a cold temperature when I'm programming it, whether it's 100 or 75 or 80, whatever you program that at. And on this side, I'm going to write what I'm setting my high pressure and low pressure alarm settings at for that axle. And the way we do that, because you don't know how your tires operate right now until you see them operate, we use 25%, and you can go 20 to 25% above your cold pressure, and we do 10% below. And when you make your first trip, you'll actually see how your tires operate. Every brand of tire and every manufacturer operates differently. So one tire, when it gets up to operating temperature, may go up 5 psi. Another brand, when it comes up to operating temperature, may go up 20 or 22 psi. So you'll know after you make your first trip. So then we're just going to grab our monitor. Once we've done all that, on the left side of the monitor there's a little on and off switch. I'm just going to push that up and I'll see my screen come up on the monitor. And this already has 2 tires programmed in there, and that's probably from the factory testing the system, and I'll show you how to delete that later on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my alarm parameters. And to do that, in the middle of the screen there's a button that says set. I'm going to press the set button and hold it for approximately 3 seconds until all 22 tires show up on my screen. In the first box on the left, I'm going to see PSI. And on the system, you have your choice between using standard or metric. So I can use my plus or minus key and scroll between the two. You'll see if I hit plus, it went to bar. If I hit plus again, it goes back to PSI. So if I want PSI, I'm just going to press set and release. That's kind of like saying, yes, that's what I want. Now it's going to go to the box on the right. It's going to give you an F, or it may give you a C. Again, you use your plus or minus key to go between them, and that's for either Fahrenheit or Celsius. In this case, I want Fahrenheit, so I go back to Fahrenheit. I press the set button, and it's going to save it. Now you'll see my front axle is flashing, and it's going to say right here, it says high pressure. So that means I'm setting my high pressure alarm for the front axle. And for me, I've set that at 125. So in this box I see 175. So using my plus or minus keys, I can adjust that. And I'm going to use my minus key, and I'm just going to scroll down to 125 here. And sometimes they go in increments of 2. That's okay, you can go either way. Once I've set my front axles flashing, high pressure at 125, I'm just going to hit set and release. Now I'm going to see my front axle is flashing. Now it says low pressure and 100, and I want my low pressure alarm to be at 90. So again, I'm just going to use my minus key. I'm going to scroll down here to 90, and then to save that and say yes, that's what I want. Again, I just hit set and release. Now it's going to go on to the second axle, and it's going to repeat the same process. Now the system, because it's set up to read from 0 to 210, it's done in two different modules, 0 to 102 and 102 to 210. So when you initially start to program it below 100, you're going to see that it's going to go to 102 and then it's going to jump back to 210. That's okay, just take it back to 102 and leave it, save that setting, and when we come back again the second time, it's like the computer say, oh, you're back, you must want the first module, and then it'll allow you to go to the below the 102. Oops, so here you'll see I waited too long, so it timed out and went back to my screen mode. So I'm just going to press the set mode for 3 seconds till all 22 tires show up again. Okay, it's on my PSI, it's on my Fahrenheit. Since I didn't save the data, I'm going to have to go back in and readjust it. So my front axle high pressure, again, I'm going to run that down to 125. I just press set and release to say OK. My front axle low pressure, I'm going to take that down to 90 again. I'm going to hit set and release. Now I'm back to where we were with my second axle flashing high pressure. And I want that to be 94, but you're going to see what I said here as I take it down to, as I get to 102, you're going to see it jumps back up here. It went to 218. So I'm just going to take that back to 102. I'm going to hit set and release and leave it. Now my second axle, it's asking me low pressure. I want that to be 68, so I'm just going to use my minus key and take that to 68. Now for this setup, I'm not using my third axle and I'm not using the toe, so all I have to do is just press set. Since I'm not doing anything to that, I just press set again, and I just kind of basically bypass this setup. On the toe, you'll see all the tires flashing at the same time. You set those all up at once. I hit it again, all the tow vehicle. Now it says low pressure. Now it's going to say temperature 158. We recommend leaving your high temperature alarm at 158. That's the factory default. I'm going to save that there. And now I'm back to PSI. So I'm just going to press set and release, set and release, set and release, set and release. Now you'll see I'm back at the second axle where it says high pressure 102. And now it's going to allow me to go below the 102, and I'm going to go down to the 94 that I needed. As I went around a second time, it let me to do it. Then all I have to do after I've adjusted all the pressures, where I want my pressures and my alarms for each axle, I just press the set button for approximately 6 seconds, and it's going to save all that data, and we're good to go like that. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to show you how do I program a sensor to the actual monitor so the monitor knows what sensor it's reading on each tire. And to do that, we use the code button. So here again, I press the code button and I hold it for approximately 3 seconds till all 22 tires show up. And here you're going to see in the front screen, it's always going to default with your passenger side front tire flashing. And here you'll see a code. That's what a code looks like. Since I haven't programmed a tire into that, I personally like to delete the code out. You don't have to. As you program a new sensor on there, it'll knock that old code out and update to the new one. But if I just press the set button and hold it, I'll see that code will change to all F's, and I've deleted that sensor out. I can just hit the plus key. That's going to take me to that other tire that was on there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to press the set button. And what you do is you use the plus or minus key, and that's how you scroll from tire to tire. Okay. So on here, the first two sensors I'm going to show you are the T508 and the flow through. Those can be programmed off the tire as well. And typically what I do is, because these are actually transmitting right now, I don't want interference. So I just take the sensor, I hold it up to the monitor, and I kind of turn away. and I just press the code button and hold it, and you can see that those F's change to a code. Now I can hit the plus key again. I'll pick up my second sensor, and again, this is only for the 508 and the flow-through sensors. The T515 sensors require air to be activated to that. The flow-through sensor programs the same way. You just hold it up next to it, and there it is. Then if I wanted to save this data, once I've gone through all of my tires, all I do is I just press the code button down and hold it, and you'll see right here it shows those two tires or those two sensors that I just programmed. The thing that's very important to remember is that you have to make sure that the tire that's flashing is the tire that you're working on, and that sensor number corresponds to that tire that you're going to program, so everything's together. Okay, so I'm going to delete that out, and I'm going to show you how to program a T515 sensor. Again, I press the code button down for 3 seconds. That'll give me all 22 tires. I'm going to delete that code out of there like I did a minute ago, just to clear the screen. And I'll show you how these sensors activate. So I'm going to activate again the passenger side front tire, so that's flashing on my screen. I go up to my tire, and using my wrench, I just take my wrench on here, I screw the sensor onto the tire, and as I screw it on, the air is going to activate the sensor, and within 20 seconds you should see those F's change to a code. And you see it on the screen there, it changed. If I hold that down for 6 seconds and save it, you'll see that tire is programmed onto the monitor. Okay, a couple things to know. Sometimes you'll screw it on there and it won't. You won't see the code change, or you won't see the F change to a code. If that happens, what you want to do is back the sensor all the way off again, and then screw it back on and try it again. If it doesn't take the second time, typically what happens is that'll mean that your valve core is screwed in a little bit too tight, your dill valve. And so if inside the actual sensor is a little nipple that touches the dill valve and depresses it to get air. If your dill valve's in too far, you won't get good contact between those two. Or sometimes you'll get a contact and you'll get a code, but you'll always get a pressure reading of 2 or 3 or 5 pounds. If that's the case, you're just going to take the sensor back off, take the valve core tool, and back the valve core out about 1/8 or 1/4 turn. And then go through the process again. That'll give you enough room so when you screw the sensor on, it will activate at that time. The 2 things you need to know. A little trick is if you have a hard time getting in there with the anti-theft wrench, what I'll do sometimes is unscrew the 2 halves of the housing. I will take the sensor and put it on there like that with the lower part of the housing on there. That way I can screw it on by hand to program it. I don't have to fiddle with the wrench. And then once I've set up my code, I'll go back and I'll screw the top of the anti-theft housing on just like that. And that'll just screw on by hand. Some people prefer not to use the anti-theft housing. That's fine. If that's the case though, you'll notice if you look around here, there's going to be a little seam. That's where the 2 housings come together to change the battery. I always recommend, even though there's an O-ring inside, taking a little bead of silicone and wrapping it around there just to seal that a little bit more so moisture doesn't get in there if you end up in standing water. When we talk about anti-seize compound, here's a little sample of what the packets look like. You can get at your auto parts store. And that's for dissimilar metals, so you don't have any type of corrosion forming between the sensor and the valve stem. What you can do is take a little bit of that, rub it on your finger around the valve stem, and then put the sensor on, and that'll help protect against any corrosion from dissimilar metals. I hope that answered your questions. If you have any other questions, don't ever hesitate to contact us. Just give us a call or send an email or text, and we'll get right back to you, and we're here to help you set it up if you have any problems.